Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Chris Yee.
And today we're talking about Scarface 1920. Now, Scarface is based on actual real-life mobsters, although the game definitely takes more of a silly tack toward... Not silly, I guess is the wrong word. Silly's...
It's a raucous time. It's a rambunctious kind of a game to it.
Yeah. You're controlling one of these mobster gangs, and you have area control. There's a lot going on in it. In fact, if you want to see this, we played it live on the Dice Tower. So you can see a full game of this. We played a 3-player game. More on that later. And so you can watch that, or you can stick around right now, and Chris will show you how to play the game.
Here's a wide look at Scarface 1920 on the table. All of this here is going to be my player area, and I don't have any other players set up for table space and for camera view. The central board over here is going to be made up of extra cards that you can add to your personal deck of cards. You can think of this a little bit as a deck building game. Jobs, which are special objectives that if you complete, you're going to get stronger abilities that'll make you more unique and differentiated from your other opponents and give you huge abilities. These are dealers over here, which are places that you can send your people to in order to get more resources. The more resources you have, the more you'll be able to sell to the neighborhoods. You have different areas which are under your control, and you can sell to these neighborhoods these goods in order to make money. Money is going to be the victory points of the game. Whoever has the most money at the end of the game is going to be the winner. This up here represents the time track of the game. There are certain event cards that will be revealed every time that this marker moves forward to the newspaper step. The marker is going to move forward every time that you have spent all of your cards from your deck and have to reshuffle them, and it'll move one space forward. So based on the number of players, eventually you'll reach this phase here, revealing the new newspaper phase, which might have a positive or a negative effect, ongoing or instant. You reset back to this area here, and as you recycle and shuffle through your deck more and more, you'll reveal the next card until you reveal the end of Prohibition and the end of the mobster era of the 20s. You begin the game with a deck of 6 cards, and you'll draw 3 of them into your hand. Each card is going to have a special ability on the bottom and some important values at the top here, either muscle and or influence. You're going to choose to play any number of these cards. I'll hold on to the bodyguards in my hand and play these 2 lieutenants because they're going to give me a combined 2 influence. I then take that influence and I can carry out an order. Orders are going to take either influence or muscle to carry out those actions. I can choose one of them. This group here requires me to send one of my available gangster thugs into the underworld. Every time you send someone to the underworld, you have to move up on this police raid track over here, which is a bit of a problem. But then you can carry out actions like recruiting new characters into your deck. Why not have a paid-off judge available for you, which will give you some new special actions and a lot of influence. Or maybe you want to hire a hitman who can help you kill other people's presence off of the board and give you some good muscle or maybe even some influence. These cards can go into your discard pile or hand if you pay extra to get them and make them available to use immediately. Other things you can do, new jobs that you can fulfill for special abilities. You can get new dealers so that you can get more resources, or you can even send one of your thugs out to a dealer with a requisite number of muscle or influence to gain those resources, making it easier to sell to your neighborhoods. You can also choose to sell to the neighborhoods. This one requires 3 barrels of booze and 1 gun. If I sell those here, then I'll be able to get 21 bucks, which is the money of the game, i.e. the victory points of the game. If you instead choose to do an order where you can send a person to the authorities, you take one of your available thugs, send them up here into the authorities, but you don't move up on the wanted or the raid track. Instead, you can add more control to your businesses, influence the police to let your people come out of prison, because people will definitely go to prison, and they can become available thugs for you to have later in the game. The last thing you can do is you can send your available thugs directly onto the map to confront in some gang warfare, move around, try and take over and control other areas. So if I have thugs out here, I can move them around and try to take over new businesses so I have new areas to sell to. I can even come over here and try to fight and take over other people's businesses, but more pieces that they have out here, including the neutral police, will make it harder to take over these. If I do so though, That's a good swing for me. That's good for business. One of the orders that you can carry out is to upgrade your gang. You will move your boss one space forward and take this cube and pay for it to increase one of these qualities here. Maybe you want to increase your hand size. Maybe you want to increase your lawyers, which will help you move down that wanted or the raid track. Maybe you want to have stronger recruiters so you can move more people further ahead on your board. Maybe you want to have more dealers, have vehicles which are going to make it easier to move around the board and fight, or trucks that'll make those deliveries even cheaper. Lastly, you can upgrade businesses from the regular side to the nightclub side, which cost more but give you huge bonuses. These can all be upgraded on the side here, but you'll also notice that these numbers on the side are increasing the further up you move your mob boss on these tracks here. That's because you have a boss card, which is going to be one of your strongest. Its values, instead of being written here, are wherever your mob boss happens to be up to, and these are all asymmetric based on the gangs. Another level of asymmetry is that your boss has up to 3 special abilities that they can carry out on their turn, and each one will do different things that feel really game-breaking and strong. At the start of a turn, if you have no cards in your deck or in your hand because they're all spent and discarded, you'll instead do what is called a reorganization turn instead of your normal turn. You'll follow these steps here, which the short of it is that you will reshuffle your entire discard pile to be your new deck of cards. You can sell to all of the business areas that you have and get this much money. You even get bonuses for having more of these business markers that you control on the board. You'll also get a few passive upgrades here, like some recruits based on how high you are upgraded on your gang here, and then you'll move the time marker forward. A very important aspect of the game is the raid track here. Every time that you go to the underworld or perform other shady activities, you will move up on this track. If you ever reach the very top space labeled raid, you will trigger a raid card. You reveal it, and it has an instant effect that will affect every player, and then a tiered effect that will affect everyone based on their relative location on the track, red, orange, yellow, or green, with usually less punishing effects the lower that you are on the track. And lastly, you can decrease your wantedness by certain factors, numbers, or maybe your upgraded lawyer value, and raids are going to be a very important equalizer in the game. When the last newspaper event is revealed, the end of Prohibition, the game will end. At this point, players will reveal all the money behind their player screens, adding to that extra money for the total value of all of the associates that they've hired over the course of the game, the total number of business markers that they control, and any jobs they completed that might give them endgame money. The players will then total up, and whoever has the most money is the winner of Scarface 1920.
Okay, first of all, I think the components for this game are amazing.
Yeah, they're outstanding. It's really good. I think that the component trays, the resource trays and stuff, I pretty much like almost every part of the insert. The bottom not as much, but I like stuff with lids.
It's a minor thing, right? I think the rule book explains how to play the game. I think the cards are pretty clear. Very rarely did I have to look up stuff.
Yeah.
When I was going through it. The miniatures, I think, are amazing.
It has great table presence.
It really does.
A lot of table presence.
It does take a while to set up. And there can be some minor problems with if you're sitting on one side of the table and you want to buy a card from that card display, you're going to have to ask people to read them all to you or hand them to you because they have a decent amount of text on them.
They do, yeah. They have 2 different abilities. The top one always fires off. The bottom one, if you pair it with another matching symbol, and it's just impossible to see from really across the table.
It really is. So, but like, hand me those 3 cards or 5 cards or however many you need to look at. So there's a lot of text, and the job cards also have a lot of text on them.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm pretty happy with this production. It's like a really stellar looking game. Mm-hmm. I expect people at our conventions are going to pull it out and play it just because it looks really cool.
I think so. And what's interesting to me about it is that underneath it all is it's kind of a economic-ish game. You're trying to get resources and then sell it to all the districts in your neighborhoods. Like, that's kind of the crux of actually winning the game.
Well, that is what the gangsters were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they were shooting each other up, but it was because of the economics.
Right, absolutely. And I like that little churn that you have there, trying to get enough stuff in, trying to sell and push enough of it out. And so my first impression of this was going to be, this is going to just be like a lot of fighting and killing each other. And it's less of that than I expected, but it's still kind of there. The game has teeth.
Yes, the theme is very strong. You definitely are a gangster in this game. And as a side note to that, adults, keep that in mind. It says ages 14 plus on here. There are some 14 plus cards, especially in the different characters and some of the jobs. Keep that in mind. Not everything is pleasant that happens in this game. They're gangsters. They're
No.
bad guys.
Absolutely.
Now, you said that this game has teeth. So this is an interesting thing about this game. I find that Scarface, the game is set up so that I can blow up Chris's guys and shoot him and do this and do that. You know, there's some of that. You don't do it a lot, but you can do it. The game is going to beat you up more than your opponents are by a lot.
I'd agree with that, yes.
And so that is my biggest concern with the game. The game has wild swings of randomness. And anyone who's going to say otherwise hasn't played the game. You could say, and you could try to mitigate stuff, but sometimes you just get hosed. And I've seen it happen many times where someone gets hosed by a raid card that just hurts one player more than the others. Because each raid, I think every raid card's different. And Chris may be putting all his money into one thing and just get beat up by that on the raid cards. Or the event cards. In fact, to that end, the next time I play this, I'm going to take all the negative event cards out, shuffle the positive ones, and put them in. Because I feel like the game is already beating up on you some. And some games will just devolve into, you know, in the game we play, we got a decent amount of points. I've heard of people getting hundreds of points. I play one game where everyone ended up with almost no points.
Sure.
Because we got beat up so much by raids.
Absolutely. What? So the newspaper events you're talking about?
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the
Yeah,
newspaper events.
That one, absolutely I'm going to curate. Also the jobs deck. And to be clear, by the way, I didn't show this in the overview, but there's a lot of newspaper events, and there's a lot of jobs. They're very thick decks.
But you use 2 events per game for the newspaper thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't mind that they're different, but I want them, like, we did the one game that you and I played. We lost half our money. I was like, I would not have put that in the game. That's half your points.
Right.
It doesn't feel good for that to happen. Like, there's nothing, no one at the table's like, woo. Anything that makes everyone at the table feel a little bad, unless we're playing a cooperative game, why is it there?
I agree. So I would curate that deck. I would curate the jobs because there's a couple of very mean jobs. Like you're about to make a huge sale. I made that sale.
Oh, and in the last game, you weren't part of that game I played. I killed everyone in jail. I killed everyone somewhere else. And I mean, I got those. I'm also not convinced that the jobs are 100% balanced. There's a couple. So. There's like one fixing the World Series. It gives you 50 points. 50. That's more points than I got in the last game.
That's such a cool thematic thing, though. You know, that
no, I get that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like this has so much great story, you know, and it's not. Hey, read a block of text. It's stuff comes up, and as you're playing the game naturally, those really funny moments come up. If I drew that job in my hand, and it said I could fix the World Series, I would just focus on that, regardless of the points, just because that sounds so fun to do.
I agree.
Also, 50 points is good.
So I'm saying all of that, but here's the thing. I still really like the game. I like the game, but it's my enjoyment is tempered by the randomness. But the things I do like, I like that you have so many fun things to do that you're sitting there going, I have no idea how many good things I can do. There's so many options. So I want to add more cards to my deck. Do I want to build more things in front of me? Do I want to do this economic thing? Do I want to attack? I think that's amazing. With the slight temperament that I've seen in every game I played, there's come a point where somebody has gotten to a point where they're like, I don't know what I can do because all my guys are out. And this game doesn't give you an action of just pass and take $2 or something, because sometimes you just have to wait till there's a raid so your guys get released, you know, or you get some people out of jail or something, because your best actions, you're sending people to the underworld. Those are the coolest actions. But eventually they get stuck there or they're out on a board and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to pull people off the board or whatever. If you're not careful, you can find yourself backed in a corner. But other than that, I'm sitting there going, I want to do so many different things. And every time you play this, you can try a different strategy, especially with how very different the 4 bosses are.
Yeah, I really like that. I really love the feeling of I'm so excited to play my boss card because I get 3 bonus activities on top of it, or bonus actions on top of that. And there is nothing similar between Al Capone and the leader of the Black Wolves gang, and
Oh yeah, no kidding.
there is nothing similar about them, which I think is so great. Like, oh, you can do that? And then I do something and the person says, well, you can do that?
Yeah.
I love that feeling, that asymmetry where it's a neat power, but at the core of it, we're all doing the same thing otherwise. So it's just a nice flavor. It's like a meaningful flavor on the side of it.
And everybody has, when you play your boss card, it just feels great.
Now, do you think it's better to have a trimmer deck so that you get your boss more often, or do you think it's
See, that
just
I don't
adding
know
a bunch
about.
of fun stuff? I think that's a good dichotomy. Is that I don't know which one I prefer, because hiring more cards in means that those cards are way stronger than your starters.
Keep in mind, though, this is not a deck builder. I mean, it is. You add more cards to your deck. You might add 3.
Yes.
That's not that many, and I'm not exaggerating. I play games with people who've added 1 or 2. You can completely ignore that and just work with your basic cards and go through your deck and your boss. And even if you want to buy a lot of cards, you can't.
There is more muscle than negotiation, and you need negotiation for a lot of important things in this game.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, I played the last game. I was like, I'm going to make an amazing deck, and because I used a faction deck, it was good at doing that sort of thing. I think I got 5, maybe.
Yeah,
It's still not that many cards.
That many
So
cards.
you need to keep that in mind. So that means when you get a card, you better really pay attention what's on that card, because that's now. It makes the game asymmetric because you start with 3 powers or 4 powers, whatever, and then each card you buy, think of it as a new special power you have. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of, like I said, it's properly organized crime and board games. Okay, it's one of my favorite themes. I mean, I guess for full disclosure, I designed a game based on organized crime. Right. I just find it to be interesting because it's in a game and we get all in the silly mobster mode and do all these fun things, and I like it.
It's far enough removed to like this type of setting, right? The 1920s, when we played it and someone said, "Yeah, this takes place 100 years ago." I was like, "No, it's far removed that this is silly. Yes, it's violent. Yes, some of the characters in the deck are
Horrific people.
horrific people. Yeah, some of them.
I think most of them are probably.
Well, to be clear, they're all terrible. Yeah, but some of them. I mean, when you said 14 plus, like one of them made me blush a little bit as a grown man. I was like, "Oh wow, okay." There's a little bit of that, but it's funny to embody these people because that's very opposite you and I's general mentality.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid and you play, police and you're criminals or whatever,
Right.
That sort of thing. So I like the theme a lot, and I have a great time. I have some problems. Like I said, I think there's a ton of randomness, and I don't think I played it with 4, and I don't think I'll ever play it with 4 again. 3 is a really good sweet spot. You're still in each other's face. There's still everything going on. It's not like there's a lot less interaction, but it's a lot faster. It's a nice, a little over 2 hours, and that's good. You get much longer than that, and the randomness thrown in, you feel it more.
It'll start to kind of overtake how much fun you're having.
Yeah, and you got to go in knowing there's going to be wild things happening in this game. This is if you're someone who wants very pure strategy, I want a little bit of randomness. You're going to get a lot in this game. And yes, the best player will probably win.
Right, but if you don't want stuff taken away from you, that definitely happens with the raids and the random events and such.
But that stuff does affect my rating of the game. I'm giving this an 8. My first play of this, I was like, oh my word, this is amazing. I love it a lot. And I still really like it. But I have to temper that with how often I'm going to play this. I'm going to be like, oh, we got 3? Maybe 2. You played it with 2?
I played it solo, which replicates a second person. And honestly, I wouldn't. This is not what I'm going to come back to solo because you do a lot of management for the opponent bot.
Got it.
So it felt like a 2-player game, but I was playing both sides almost.
Feels like 3 is like the really good sweet spot.
I think so.
And you have to go in with people who are going to make quick decisions because you have so many in the game to make, and are able to do that. I just did this, or that happened to you type situation.
Car bombing.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, though, I still think it's fabulously fun, and there's not many games out there that are like it. So that's why I'm giving it an 8.
I'm also coming in an 8.
Oh.
Yeah, I was really taken with it for my first play, and and seeing how much randomness happened, right? You can go watch the live play. Tom decided to keep triggering raids because they kept hurting me instead of him, even though I was really low on that track. It's random, there's a thing that affects everybody, and it might just hurt you more. And it kept happening to me. But then the big one finally might have really got you.
Right, and see, in that particular case, I thought that was a fair thing that happened.
Yes.
Right? Even though it beat me up, it was a fair thing. But sometimes it will be unfair, I think. And if you can't deal with that, I don't think you should play this game because it might happen. And you might not want to play a 2-hour game where a stroke of luck will affect you like that. Yeah. For me, it's part of the theming, part of the fun. But that does keep it from being excellent for me. It's very good.
And I'm in the same boat, right? I think on the average, those raids and those things and stuff will kind of bring down the person in the lead or a person who's higher up on that on the wanted track, but not guaranteed.
Right.
Despite the fact that it sounds like something I should hate, I don't, because I'm just having that much fun running these businesses, doing all this type of shady stuff that I would never do in real life. And you know what? Embodying that for a few hours, having fun, throwing on the gangster voice, pointing guns at other people. This is fantastic for that.
There you go, folks. That's Scarface 1920. I'm Tom Vasel.
And I'm Chris Yee.
And we'll get you, copper.